And we are live. I have a very, very special guest with me today, Brad Codd. I welcome you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Okay. My pleasure, Torsten.
Good.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. And we've got great audio. We have a cool topic that Brad chose for the day. And by the way, Brad's going to make multiple appearances before the November vote here in California. We're going to have a lot to talk about, a lot of interesting topics that he's laid out. He's extremely educated on this subject. I respect his input. That's why he's my guest. The topic for today is greedy Uber is conspiring to reduce drivers' pay by making their own law. And I'm just going to read you a brief intro before we dive straight in. So greedy Uber is making billions of dollars in extra profits from tricking drivers into carrying the lion's share of their business operating expenses. For 5 years, from 2015 to 2020, greedy Uber systematically decreased drivers' pay each year and eventually even eliminated bonuses. According to my guest, prior to Prop 22, it is borderline not viable to be a full-time rideshare driver. Greedy Uber has squeezed drivers until today. Only the most desperate people are driving full-time. And we're going to dive straight in. And I'm going to ask you, Brad, why did you start driving full-time for greedy Uber? And give us a little bit of a background story on this awesome topic.
Thanks, Torsten. Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and my process basically was I'd go out, be a consultant for 6 months, take a $1,000 contract, build up a war chest, and then when the contract runs out, start a business.
Okay.
And I did that over and over again over many years. And sometimes it would be successful, and then I would run that for a year or 2 or 3. Other times it would fizzle, and then after 6 months I'd go back and grab another contract. And so that was basically my pattern. I tried different things. Most of the time it didn't work, of course. That's just the nature of startups. But when Uber came along, my life changed, because instead of working full-time and then moonlighting on my new business, or at the end of the contract having enough money to then work on it full-time, Uber allowed me the opportunity to work on my business full-time and then after hours go drive, make some money, and bring enough to keep the home fires burning. And so it was this unique opportunity that accelerated my ability to start up different businesses, because I didn't have to take off 6 months to build up money. I could work on the new business and make money at the same time. So that's how I got involved in Uber. And in the early days, as you mentioned in the introduction, it was pretty awesome.
Yes.
It was pretty easy to live in California, which, I don't know, probably Manhattan has a higher cost of living, maybe.
Does, yeah.
Depending where you live in California.
Exactly. Zip code, baby.
Everybody knows everybody knows it's super expensive to live here. But I was maintaining, living in a cathedral ceiling home and running a business, and of course we cut a lot of corners and that sort of stuff. But it was good. It worked out.
Yeah.
And so that's why I got involved, and it was completely viable. But as my project ran on and on and on, it got to the point where it was just a break-even proposition at best.
Right.
And then what eventually, the problem that I hit, which is what wipes out many drivers, is because it became so marginal, I was in an Uber vehicle that I was paying every month for, but I had an accident.
Oh, really?
And it took a month to get the car fixed. So I had no income for a month because I had no car.
Wow.
The car payments didn't stop, of course.
Yeah. And this can happen.
No income.
And driving for multiple years, at some point, someone is going to rear-end you or, do something. It doesn't necessarily mean it's your bad driving skills. It's usually someone else.
Yep.
and suddenly, bam, like you're off the app, and like, what now? You were not. And I remember those good times, Brad. I remember those good times because once upon a time, correct me if I'm wrong, but the percentage was about 75% in our favor, 25% for the gig working company, and people were banking decent money per week. If you knew where to drive and how to drive and outsmarted, the schedule, you were making money, right?
Absolutely. I treated it just like McDonald's. I took my little business that was inside my car, and using Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited, what is it? Post-mortem or analysis of how a McDonald's business runs. I used that turnkey business model, and I ran my business along the same lines.
Yes.
And so I had every little aspect of the business optimized, from the phone carrier I used, from the navigation system I used, from the unlimited cleaning car detailing service to where I bought gasoline. To
correct.
Just every aspect of
every little
optimized to its ultimate. And guys that did that made really, really good money.
Right. Now, fast forward. I mean, so here's the cool thing, folks. When you're passionate about this topic, right? We're going to get to the no. You see a big, bright red letters in the background there, no on 22, right? When you've, I research the facts. I read the fine print. He does too, right? So, we have, how many days do we have till this, to the big day, till we decide? There's less than 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, it's just around the corner.
So what we're going to do together is that we're going to have a great topic per day. And sometimes it'll be every second day, but we're going to try and stay on schedule every day and educate drivers, riders, as well as California citizens that are really going to make the big decision here on why the only way to go is no on 22. And then that slogan that you have behind you, slam the brakes. I love that, right? Slam the brakes, stop, and allow yourselves to be educated, or let's share good information why we are going no on 22. Now, you started a group. This is what I found fascinating. You started a group of drivers, right? You call yourself, what do you call yourself?
Okay, so originally, one of my processes that's helped me to be very successful in business is that I always put myself as the hub for clearer information of what I'm doing. So when I was a driver, I started the Lyft Drivers of Orange County Trade Association user group. What do you want to call it? We would have 75 people physically show up every month for a meeting. And I attracted people by telling them I'll share best practices with you. For example, before I started that, I used to be a 4.3 star driver, and I was a 4.3 star driver for years, and I just quit trying to become a 5.0 driver. I saw online there were some people doing it, but just forget about it. The algorithm was against me, and I just was defeated, and I just didn't bother. And then at one of those meetings, I said, somebody asked the question, I said, don't bother, it's like not worth it. You just do your job and don't worry about the rating. And then the guy piped up and said, hey, I'm a limo driver. I'm a 5.0 driver. Anybody can be a 5.0 driver. And I'm like, what? So that's an example of how, when as a leader, you put yourself at the center of clearing information, like a group of 75 people that get together every month. You learn stuff. So sure, I attracted people sharing my best practices with them. But the reason why I did it is because I've done this before many, many times in my career in many industries, and I've always benefited because I've learned as much as I've shared. For example, the very next week, because it takes a little while, but I was doing lots of rides every day. It only took me a week to become a 5.0 driver, and then I was a 5.0 driver for years.
Okay.
And occasionally, I'd get a random person causing me to go down, but it didn't bother me anymore because the hundreds of rides that I was doing,
correct,
I'd very quickly get back up to 5.0. the reason why people came was selfish. My motive was to provide better service to the Lyft driver riders, to the customers.
Cool.
But a lot of people joined the group because they wanted to make more money.
Now,
it doesn't matter. If you do the job well, you automatically make more money. So I have no problem with that.
Cool. And then when did you actually form this association? The Orange County Trade Association for these drivers. When did that roughly come to fruition?
That was probably 2018.
Okay.
About a year, slightly over a year after I started driving.
And then, between you mentioned 4.3 rating, right? So did that just meant you just went out there, you did the job, the basics, right? I guess very little communicating with the passengers, just taking them from A to B. Boom, thank you very much, get paid. And then, you started working towards this, and I've always been preaching this in all the videos from day one, how to become a 5-star rated driver, because, my idea of 5 stars is it equates to tips, right? The better the service, the more. Did you see an improvement there, or did the group see an improvement as you started working out these little kinks and sharing that valuable information?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it. So, on my own, I was able to figure out certain stuff. I'm smart and I've got a really good work ethic, and I was a full-time driver, so I was working 60 hours a week sometimes. Pushed it and did even more. But I would say pretty average with 60 hours a week. So I was really all in. But there's a limit to how much you can learn on your own through trial and error. Once we got the group together, then I started pulling in experiences and things. For example, I love talking. So talking to passengers wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
But I learned from the guy that had a limo company for all those years, who became a Lyft driver. I learned from him that it's important what you speak about.
Correct.
It's much more than...
You're very careful.
You've got to be conversational and you've got to be chatty. And for example, I'll just share the exact essence. He shared with me a video of a radio talk show host in India. She does 10-minute interviews, lots of them every day. So she has to instantly create rapport when she meets someone. And so she had these 4 things that she shared on this YouTube video. And I got to tell you, she was a professional radio talk show host, but she was so uncomfortable in front of the camera.
Really?
It made you cringe watching her talk.
Wow.
It was so bad. The knowledge that she was sharing was absolutely priceless. And so the one thing, for example, was people are serious about their life. They have a lot of things going on, and they don't have time for nonsense. Okay,
right.
So her first piece of advice, which I adopted, was no small talk. Don't talk about the weather. Don't talk about triviality.
Exactly.
Jump straight in and ask them some big question about life, about something substantial and meaningful, so that by the time you get to the end of the ride, they have been enriched, or they have
enriched you,
taught you something, and you've been enriched. It's been a meaningful relationship.
Exactly. May I?
So just something simple like that. What to talk about? Boom, made a massive difference.
May I, just because a lot of people are saying hi and giving you a shout out. We've got Abstract Jimmy in the house, Jason Ferris, John Durham, Jay Mills, Benjamin, Media Knight, Slick Nick, Scott Tucker, Nick Tumanyan, and many others. So we acknowledge you. We see you. Thank you for participating. And you'll hear way more from Brad, who is a talk show host. How many of these talk shows have you conducted in the past?
Well, lots and lots. I've lost count. I started out as a producer, and I produced 1,400 radio talk show interviews.
Wow.
And then I got into doing interviews myself. What was it called? Can't even remember now. When Google came out with their competitor to Facebook, I early adopters, and I did literally hundreds of video interviews.
Awesome.
With people. The platform proved to be not viable. I didn't get any amplification. So eventually that project came to an end. But somewhere out on the internet, if people care to look,
yeah,
they could probably find.
And you can teach me a thing or two, because I got to brush up my skills, so you can teach. My father was fantastic at this. I sort of just jumped into YouTube and it morphed into something. But I knew, like you, we had this joint passion, right? And that we are truly a voice for drivers. We truly care about the bottom line. It's a passion. You want to see people do well in life. You want to see people succeed. You want to see people climb the ladder. You help them get there. The stories that sadden me is when people are going in reverse, backwards, and there's just too many of those stories. So, how can we lift up that community? We're of the same caliber person. I've spoken to you several times. We've gone back and forth. He's genuinely, his heart is 100% in this. And, that's why you're conveying this message. Now, I had a very interesting question. So what is Robin Hood Nation, and what motivated you to become a political activist? It's a big question.
Well, I saw the impact that it had when I was helping drivers. My focus, every project I've ever worked on, even when I was working for someone else, I become the number one go-to guy. Of course, if you're running the company, it's natural that people look to you for leadership and solve problems. But doesn't matter. It was never part of my job description, but every project I ever worked on, within days, I'd become the go-to guy. And to the point where people around me would be like, hey, Brad, you got to be careful, man. You spend so much time helping other people. When do you have time to do your own work?
Right.
And so they didn't realize I had a few advantages that they didn't have. First one is I'm polyphagic. So since the age of 9, I've only slept 3.5 hours a night.
Really?
Okay?
Oh, my Lord.
So I can get 2 days' work done in 1 24 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay. So during the day, I do all the meetings and the bullshit. And then, then at night, I would do my production. Meet up with the people the next day. We go around the table. Okay, you've given this assignment yesterday. How's it going? And then everybody would be like, oh no, I was in meetings all day yesterday. I haven't started yet. Oh no, I was in meetings all day. And then they get to me and, okay, it's done. And they're like, what? And all the guys that report to me, all their work is done too. It's like, what?
Yeah.
How did you do that? So, I had that advantage in that I can get a lot done. But then also I love helping people.
Yeah.
And as a result, there's this emotional intelligence book that I read once. I forget the title, but they talk about, I think it was a networking book. You fill up your emotional bank account in a relationship with somebody else, and before you try and make a withdrawal. So in corporate America, when you go to somebody and say, hey, you're on my critical path, can you help me out with this thing so that I can carry on doing what I'm doing? The response, 99.9999999% of the time is, oh, I'm really busy. Have your boss talk to my boss, and I'll get around to it when I can.
Exactly.
But with me, what people didn't realize is the reason why I got so much done and I was known as a finisher in an industry where 85% of the projects never reached completion is because when I went to someone and said, hey, you're on my critical path, could you please take care of this thing for me? They would drop what they were doing, take care of it in a minute or two and say, there you go, Brad. And I was like, oh, you're awesome. Thanks so much. And I'd leave. And so I got so much done because I didn't sit around waiting on other people all the time, which is what most people in corporate America do.
And you know how to communicate, and you know how to be respectful. We can't quite say that about the CEO at Uber over there, Mr. Dara. Are you tuning in here? Are you watching? Right. You could. I think Dara could learn. I think Dara could learn a lot from this conversation. You have to listen to people. You have to be able to communicate and respect. It's a big one, and I think that's where both Uber and Lyft have really hurt their driver base. They don't communicate with drivers. They don't. So they just see them as objects that fulfill a duty and carry on, right? So there's just not that relationship between, employer, employee, or independent contractor company, whatever you want to call it. There's just such a huge rift, and I've seen that rift get bigger and bigger and bigger over the last 2.5 to 3 years. Now, which leads me into my next question. So what's so wrong with giving greedy Uber what they're asking for in Proposition 22, right? What is wrong about that? It's a big one.
All right. So basically what they're trying to do, well, first thing to understand, and this is where Uber is being dishonest. Greedy Uber is just unbelievably, I was elite military in South Africa, okay? So we learned all the communist tactics, propaganda, indoctrination, brainwashing, all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
We had to learn it in order to learn the countermeasures, okay? So I come to America and I watch how politicians and businesses use those tactics that I learned that the communists used to invade countries.
Mm-hmm.
They use them against American people. And so a classic example of what greedy Uber is doing at the moment is they are misdirecting people. Like, for example, there's this big statistic that they're throwing around everywhere. 75% of drivers prefer to be, have a flexible driving schedule. So therefore you must let them be independent contractors. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That is such...
4 to 1, they say. 4 to 1. Own surveys. 4 to 1.
4 to 1. It's even worse.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's very dishonest because, yes, it's true. Drivers want and love the flexibility of being able to drive whenever they want. Where the lie comes in and where the dishonesty comes in is the way that greedy Uber has coupled that desire of drivers with this concept of being an independent contractor.
Right.
They've got nothing to do with each other.
Nothing.
There are plenty of companies that employ independent contractors, and the independent contractors work flexible schedules.
Correct. Yeah, and it's...
So them obfuscating the issue and saying, oh no, drivers want to be independent, therefore you must make them an independent contractor, being kind to drivers, is a complete lie.
Yeah.
Because...
And when you're selling that lie over...
So they can abuse them.
Right, and when you're selling that lie over and over and over again, some people, start accepting that as the truth. It's like you're saying it 20, 30, 40, 50 times. They say it through the app. They say it through the TV ads. I can relate to that. We were both in the army. I went through that same training. It's a form of manipulation and brainwashing and conditioning, right? And that you eventually buy into without conducting your own research, independent research. You just simply face value, swallow like baby food, right? You start feeding off this yes on 22 versus making yourself an own meal with your own healthy ingredients, your own good research, and say, okay, hang on one second, what you're saying over here is just not true, right?
Propaganda 101. You tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth.
Yep.
People become to believe it. Why? Because people are really, really busy. They don't have time to go into infinite detail and research every single thing for themselves. So what they do is there are two big factors, okay? And this comes from Robert Cialdini. Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion is his book. So there are two things here. One is authority. People look around and say, what are the leaders telling me? And they implicitly trust their leadership to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Okay? So Uber is a big company, billions and billions of dollars. They brand it very well, and they provide a good quality service, and they have a good reputation. So when they say something,
must be true. Yeah.
People take it at face value.
Correct.
So they're manipulating people because they have authority, and they're abusing that authority.
Right.
And then the second factor is this whole concept of reinforcing something by saying it over and over and over again. That is a standard persuasion technique.
Correct.
Which is why salespeople say, oh, you've got to have 8 touches with someone before you try and sell them something. Or to interact with someone 8 times before they think they know you. And we all know that people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So they manipulate people into fabricating all these different ways of interacting with people in the hopes of being able to manipulate them into winning the sale.
Yeah.
So all these techniques are well understood in the advertising industry, in the marketing industry. But because your military background and my military background, we got introduced to these concepts when we were teenagers or young adults.
Yeah.
But most Americans don't have the advantage of this. So I see just one look and it's like, oh my gosh, people, can't you see what they're doing to you?
Exactly. And I mean, you know, the funny thing is here, the two arguments that I hear all the time, you know, counter to my no on 22. They'll say, well, you know, our flexibility, our freedom is going to be taken away. And I'm like, stop. Right? So those big fear selling points, right, that they're pushing across. You know, your flexibility is going to be gone. Your freedom is going to be gone. It's, you know, that right there is the biggest lie. You're not going to lose those two. And by the way, you said it, I said it. Flexibility and freedom doesn't pay the bills. Doesn't pay the bills, folks. What you got to look at and what we're going to break down in future segments, because we got at least another 20 days of using the platform, talking about different topics, interacting, you know, getting the word across to the California voter, getting the word across to riders, getting the word across to drivers, is that the deal that's presented by Uber currently, once you've read the 25 pages, you're not going to be happy. Doesn't add up to money. Doesn't add up to money, right?
It's just the opposite. You know, we have a slide on our website that talks about would it be fair if a cashier in a supermarket only earns money when there's food on the conveyor belt and they ring up a customer?
Wow.
If they're standing around for the next customer to come,
not getting paid.
Does that mean that they don't get paid because there's no customer?
Right.
And that's what Uber's doing. They're like, oh, $15 an hour. It's like, great. Meanwhile, they're lying because the $15 an hour is only for $15 an hour when there's food on the conveyor belt and you ring up the sale on the cash register. As soon as there's nobody in line, the Uber driver's not earning any money. They're sitting around twiddling their thumbs.
And that example is
paid for that time.
That example is just as clear as daylight, and the drivers need to understand this. So when you're getting constantly being sold on the fact that you're an independent contractor, you're going to be making this minimum wage plus 30 cents per mile. I mean, 30 cents per mile, let's put that aside. That's nothing. I mean, yeah, if I drive from LA to Vegas and halfway back, they use this 500-mile example. That is 500 miles to Vegas, from LA to Vegas and back, times 30 cents. My gas is not factored in. My maintenance, the wear and tear is not factored in. I'm not going to drive to Vegas and back for $150. It's not going to happen, right? And then the second lie.
So economically viable.
Right. And then the second lie, as you pointed out, is that this, and you use the shopping teller there, the example, you're only getting paid when that food is on the conveyor belt or your fingers are on the computer board, right? The same thing with these Uber trips, right? So you're gassing up, you're fueling up, not getting paid. You take your stops, your stretches, you're not getting paid. You're over at the drive-through, or you go in for a meal, you're not getting paid. You're sitting around in a neighborhood, your app is not going off, you're not getting paid. And people just buying into these misleading lies, these selling points, as you call them, right? Because if I say it 8, 10, 20...
One thing that I learned is that customers actually don't know that once it goes ding and you've got a ride and you have to ride and go and pick up someone, the driver doesn't get paid.
Not getting paid.
And they're like, what? No, Uber drivers only get paid when there's a passenger in the car. And greedy Uber have got these things dialed in. That's why I say that, I started, and over a period of 5 years, they just optimized optimize to give the drivers the absolute minimum they can get away with. And money that's a bad way that they're doing it, but there's a psychological or there's a way that they behave aspect to it as well. And we talk about how the president is so dismissive of drivers. The reason why I stopped driving for Uber and created the Lyft drivers of Orange County and basically put Lyft on the map in Orange County is because of the abuse that I received whenever I interacted with anybody at Uber. First of all, it's almost impossible to communicate with corporate. When you do figure out a way to get in to talk to people, they are so disrespectful.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It really is a matter of, man, you're just such an inconvenience to us. We can't wait for the day where we can replace you with an automated self-driving car. And just shut up. You're about to become obsolete.
Yeah.
And that's from the very top of the company to the very lowest customer service person. It was you felt dirty when you interacted with these guys. It was horrible.
I mean, I'll share a little story, not a little bit off topic, but it goes sort of hand in hand with what you're saying. Dealing with 3 or 4 senior counsels, attorneys at Uber, right? And going back and forth. They know that I've sued them. I sued them 3 times, right? And this dismissive language, like, the guy was talking to me like I was a dog, right? And trying to, educate me. He understood hardships. He was in the Marines, etc. I said, okay, fine, good. We have a very similar background, but your disrespectful language does not suit me, right? So we can end the conversation here. So he sort of like apologized, carried on. He wanted a whole set of documentation from me, which was part of like the discovery phase. This was in the midst of the pandemic. I said, listen, I'm going out now. I'm going to endanger my family, Mr. Randall Heimovicki. That's his name. I'm going to go up to Kinko's, put on my hazmat suit there and everything, go out, send the documentation, send him the email. And this is what he requested, right? Wouldn't accept it. Wouldn't accept the documentation. And I'm on line with FedEx and I say, listen, we're going in there. He just doesn't want to accept it, right? We've tried 10 times. I call the guy up again and I said, listen, do you realize what's happening out there? There's a pandemic going on, right? And this is your reckless behavior. This is how you treat people. Goes hand in hand with the entire history of all your, skeletons that you have in the closet with Uber here. All these media reports, there's nothing bright and beautiful, right? They usually slam Uber. And I said, this just feeds into that story. But I take this very personal because you're putting me, my wife, my family in harm's way. You intentionally sent me out there during the pandemic, and you had no desire to cooperate with me, right? And as a South African, you've lived there, that shit ain't flying with a South African guy, right? So hard and heavy,
hey,
we club.
We recognize it for what it is.
We recognize it for what it is. And, I told him that'll come at a price, right? So, his reputation, and I never make physical threats. I don't believe in that. But, we understand the way we got trained in the army, right? It's very easy to break down, psychologically break down these weak people like Randall Heimovicki. It's very, very easy, right? Because we just use the same medicine back and we mirror it back at them, right? And
they
this
are defenseless.
Oh, they defend, and he freaks out. And he just had a little tiff, and he had a little meltdown. And I said, seriously? You were in the army? You, Mr. Tough Guy? And he's having this little meltdown. And I started drawing in all the attorneys, and one after one, good essay style, just clubbing them. And that's the only thing that works. And what we have to do here on 2022 is the same strategy, because you got this $180 million, $200 million war machine, right? And on the other side, you got $5 million wherever it came from, unions or whatever. That's a big difference. That's $195 million difference. So the only way we win this battle is by sharing these type of stories, this type of good information, truthful information, And we have a very, very powerful platform. It's called social media. Thank you very much. Thank you, Instagram. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Twitter. Thank you, Facebook, and all the others. Thank you, TikTok, right? That is where we go clubbing, folks. So you got to take this knowledge, you got to take this input, and you got to be prepared to battle. You have to.
Yeah, we've got the truth on our side,
yeah.
And we've also got history on our side, because, yes, in the political history of America, no proposition has had this much funding. Not the pharmaceutical companies, not the tobacco industry. Nobody has put this kind of money into a proposition.
Crazy, yeah.
So for guys like you and me, that's an immediate red flag. It's like, what's going on here?
Correct.
It's obviously something fishy in the state of, smelling fishy in the state of Denmark.
Yeah.
Whoa, hold it a sec. And then we have history on our side, because we're on the side of truth, but also in the history of America, on average, large corporations that put tons and tons of money into propositions don't win.
Right.
So, it's tough fighting somebody with a war chest of, $200 million.
Right.
But if you've got the truth on your side, and you've got the people on your side, you will prevail. So for people that are discouraged and say, it's hopeless, Uber has already won. No.
Never give up.
The chances of them winning based on historical pretext is extremely low to nil.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged by the Goliath. Can prevail.
Yeah.
The truth is on our side, and history on our side. So get out there, see what you've learned. The whole proposition, yes on Proposition 22, is a bad decision.
It is.
Drivers. It's not in drivers' interests.
And in one of the...
If you can't articulate it, send them to us and we'll speak to them.
Right. And in one of the future discussions that we will have in the next few weeks, I think we should also really run one of those TV ads, right? I'll run one in the background, and we really have to break it down, because this is where they're spending this. They're spending this insane money by running the same type of. It's as if you don't vote for yes, right, you're going to hurt all these wonderful drivers. Well, then, firstly, they're not drivers; they were hired actors, right? They're hired actors. None of those guys are drivers, right? And we really have to break down the lies in those TV ads, because they're running them on every single freaking network, day and night. That's where there's $200 million, right? Trying to connect with that.
They lie often enough, and people think it's the truth.
Right, trying to connect with that California voter. So we got to do our job. Now, I got a long day ahead of me. My leg, is pounding because I got it face down, so the blood's running into it. We are going to have many, many other great discussions. I got a lot of people in the room here, good stuff. And by the way, feel free to chime in afterwards. Once the live feed is broadcasted out there. Look, we really haven't addressed, and I'll do this next time. And my apologies that I haven't really read out a lot of the comments as we're going, but a lot of people have put in great comments and deserve. And that's what I try to do in my channel, is when I go through, I try to get back to everyone, even if it's just a one-liner, right? And especially if people start getting really nasty, name-calling, you stupid fool, you got to vote yes on 22. Well, if you say yes on 22, please back it up. Please back it up with some facts, not threats. We don't do kindly with threats. Back it up with facts, like we're doing on this show. We're breaking it down for you. We're showing California citizens why it is imperative, it is important, muy importante, that we vote no on Proposition 22. Brad, your final comments here, and I'm super excited. This is a fellow South African. He's from Durban, South Africa, the big surf area. We were talking about, some of you went to a school in Port Shepstone and Margate. I loved going down there on holidays. We're the same breed, same age, right? And we have the same mission here, and that is really to educate California and drivers that this is the only way to go, is no. Go ahead, final words there, Brad.
Well, we love helping people. It's sort of in our DNA. And so we want this whole rideshare industry to be healthy and to go on and just provide this incredibly valuable service. There's no question in anybody's mind that rideshare is an amazing innovation.
Very
and
true.
It enables just so many things and so much prosperity. But for greedy Uber to basically put their arms around everything and just keep everything to themselves and exploit everybody else, and then resort to propaganda campaigns. I love your idea, Torsten, of grabbing one of those ads and breaking it down and just translating it for folks, because you and I have been professionally trained in propaganda.
Yes.
So we can take the double speak in those ads and say, folks, this is what greedy Uber is saying,
and
this is what they want you to think, this is actually what it means, but this is actually the truth that they're trying to basically confuse you about.
correct.
The real issue is not this. The real issue is that this is how they try to bamboozle you. So I can't wait to see the results of your analysis of some of their propaganda pieces. It's going to be a real eye-opener for folks.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Good. I had an amazing time, and I can only say thank you. On behalf of all the subscribers, all the wonderful drivers that have been chiming in all the time and have been leaving great comments. Appreciate you having you here, and I'm super excited for our next session. I'm going to spend a little bit of time, Brad, one-on-one with a couple of people here. I'm going to sort of go back. Feel free to come back through into the channel after we switch off here. But again, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Look forward.
Really appreciate the good work that you do. Keep it up.
Appreciate it. Bye, buddy. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So, guys, I truly appreciate Brad being on today, and he's part of the Robin Hood group out of Orange County. We're going to have several of them. We're going to have attorneys. We're going to have different experts over the next 22 days. Look, no matter where you stand on this topic, right? If you're buying their story, yes, on 22. If you're 150% convinced it is a yes, or it has to be a yes, we can't change your mind, right? But there's a lot of people, there's a lot of Californians, there's a lot of drivers, there's a lot of riders out there that still haven't gathered all the information. So Scott Tucker is in the house. He says, I've convinced my family in California to vote no on 22, even though I live in Nevada. Wonderful. Dan, the driving man, so good to see you here. Uber has been the biggest bait and switch in history of rideshare. Wake up, right? Money. That comment right there, boom, nail on the head, right? $200 million bait and switch campaign, trying to trickery, the verbiage, trying to get you buy-in. You're not an independent contractor, folks. I'll gladly show you how to become an independent contractor. That's pretty much the closest you'll ever get to that, is a limo driver, spending $1,200 on your own TCP or TNC license, nominating, making your own rates, declining people if you want to. If you don't want that specific client because they just have bad attitude, you can decline them, and there's zero fear of retaliation. You know, a true independent contractor, which I know I'm in the limo world, right, with my company, which I know I'm not driving for these two, right? We here to try and up the game to make it better, because as Brad already said, the service, the model is brilliant. Get a car quickly on your phone within minutes. We're not faulting what Travis Kalanick created, right? He was a vision. He had so much vision there. Just somewhere after all of that vision, things started getting a little bit south, and that's when greed, right? When greedy Uber set in, greedy Lyft set in. You know, when the investors were just not happy. We want more, we want more, we want more, we want more greed. $45 million for Dara, take it away from the drivers, take it away from the drivers, right? Somewhere along the line, that fantastic idea of rideshare, that vision of Travis left the train tracks, right? And once upon a time, you were making 75%, they were making 25%, and it was working. So we have a lot to talk about. Edison Simples, I like that. Oink, oink, the little piglet emoji there. Dan says, Prof, the real deal. Number one, no one tells you better. Look, myself and Brad, just coming from the heart, right? The cars that I lease out, if it's in joint ventureships with fleet owners or myself, want all those drivers to be well. We hear all those stories, right? Have meetings, weekly meetings, right? You know, and the people are just not happy with the earnings. Now, if you're at that point when you're crunching the numbers and it's just not working out, it's just not working anymore. Formula is just not working out. Come November, come January, formula is just not working out. I'm going to have a phenomenal video for you. The guys from Australia developed this new app for gig workers, for rideshare drivers, how to create your plan B and C. Phenomenal. I'm telling you, it's going to blow your mind. And I'm super excited to introduce those guys. That's going to be in our open house segment this afternoon. I'll be introducing 3 companies that I work closely with, and why I believe it's a good fit for drivers. So I'm excited about this. This is not Our House Mondays today. This is a 22-day countdown with the Robin Hood Group from Orange County, breaking down the information for you. This gentleman was just on my show there. There he is. He's done 1,400 of these broadcasts, these shows, right? His input, he's just so chill. That's what I like about him, right? He's just so chill. It's like, he's a guy I would fully trust as a warrior on my side, right? And these are the type of alliances, these type of win-win situations you want to create between humans, right, of that caliber, right? Because they care, because they want to share the truth. And that's really important in today's time, is that truth has become so convoluted. People will want to call it, fake media or fake stories. You got the Russians chiming in. You got the Chinese infiltrating our social media, trying to convolute the playground of truth, right? It is our duty to inject sunlight, right? Blue skies. We don't want to be hovering between gray skies and clouds and untruths. We want clarity. We want the truth. That's what we're here for. So I want to say thank you to Rick. I want to say thank you to John. I want to say thank you to Nick, to Edison, to Sherelle. Welcome you, Sherelle. She's saying, who's on board with a no on 22 Caravan? If my foot was good, my leg was good, I would go, Sherelle. Slick Nick says, I wanted to go on the Caravan, but I have to stick around to assist with auditions for a film audition. Right, so I hope some people will be joining on the Caravan. I'd like to assist with live feeds, etc. I just got this. One second. Cool. So this was a funny one I just got here. Thought this was funny. If you're upsetty, or feeling regretty, eat some spaghetti. I just got that one. If you're upsetty or feeling regretty, eat some spaghetti, which makes me think I get hungry automatically because it makes me think of the time I went with Paul Figueroa and Thomas Gibson, two awesome friends and drivers out there. I went to the spaghetti factory in San Diego. I'm getting hungry right now. I haven't realized I haven't eaten. So we've got 48 people in the house. If we can jam up some likes, like Dustin always said, hit that like button, right? Let's get it up to 40. Be super, super grateful. You know, and we've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, and I'm going to have a lot of fun this afternoon. A lot of great topics for our house Mondays, right? Super stoked, super excited. Thank you for pushing it over the 40 mark. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the 47 people. Even if you just haven't chimed in and you're just listening in, thank you for listening in. Right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for dedicating your time. Please wear your masks. Please be safe out there, right? Please keep your cars disinfected. Don't let your guard down. Please disinfect it after every trip. Quick spray down. And by the way, I just bought myself this amazing vacuum cleaner, super powerful handheld one. They've got the Prime Amazon Day today. Was reduced from $200 down to $105, right? My friend has one who paid the full price. I got it for half the price. It sucks like crazy, right? Not sucks in a negative sense. It sucks all the shit and the sand and the crap out of your car, right? Gone are the days where I brush the sand out of my car, all the sea sand, the Malibu sand, and I spend 10, 15 minutes. It's zip, 3 minutes, spray, disinfect, mask, and of course, vote when it comes to Proposition 22 in California. Vote for your next president, whichever way you want to go. I'll respect your wishes on that. Thank you, guys. John Durham says, you gave yourselves away, Dara, Travis, Logan, big time. You have hundreds of millions for ads and actors, but zero for any driver benefit. Wow. Super powerful statement. I'm going to read that again because it's so powerful. It's a great way to end this show today, going out on John Durham's remarks. You gave yourselves away, Dara, Travis, Logan, big time. You have hundreds of millions of dollars for ads and actors, but zero for any driver benefit. That is the truth. You see, that's when somebody's speaking the truth. And imagine, John, just imagine, Wicked Hustle Guy, I see you. Eric Harding, hi. Imagine, John, what you can do with $180 or $200 million, right? Child abuse, senior abuse, animal abuse, fixing environmental issues, cleaning up oceans, right? Working on education for our children. I could think of a million ways to spend $200 million that'll enrich people's lives, that'll enrich drivers' lives. And as he said, you know, zero for driver benefits. No, they pissed that money, literally pissed it. It's like a cow out there on the plains, just pissing, right? They just pissed that money away into the dry Sahara sand, right? And they could have used it for a ton of other great uses, right? They spent it on lobbyists. They spent it on misleading language. They spent it on misleading TV ads. They spent it on misleading brochures. I'm telling you, you and I could show them another million ways how to truly spend $200 million. And remember that story. This is what you got to remember. When you go out and spend $200,000 on balloons, that should tell you a lot, right? I welcome Edward, Alliance Drivers Unite, Uber and Lyft buying time with Prop 22 every day. They make more money than what they would have playing by the book, scamming everyone, right? And Californians should not bail out Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and Postmates again. You bailed them out during the pandemic. They were not there for us. Californians should not bail them out. Sherelle says, Sherelle, cool, from my triplets. Sherelle, Wyatt, Sherelle, Charlie, and Sherelle. I like that. You got triplets there? I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Imagine having triplets. Gosh, it would be a lot of work. I mean, twins would be a lot of work, but imagine triplets, Sherelle. Slick Nick says, some riders noticed the no on 22 signs on the seats in my car. And when I tell them parts of it, they get convinced that Proposition 22, good, which is good. And these type of signs, if anybody can tell me where we can get these signs, and by the way, wasn't this beautiful last night? Thank you, Lakers. Thank you, Lakers, for bringing it home. So proud of these guys. Now, what you are referring to is this. I'm just going to show this thing here. I mean, look at that, guys. Look at that. Boom! In your face, right? Doesn't have to be that big. Just get a small sign somewhere and stick it on your car on the inside and have that conversation with riders. It's an interesting conversation. I've had this conversation with many, many, many clients, right? And they see the light. It's not a difficult sale at all, right? So Nick Tumanyan says, example, if I say no for 22, would we lose business? And my answer to that is no, you're not losing business. And I want to tell you why, Nick, right? I just want to answer you because I think it's a very valid question, right? Because if you go yes on 22, you're not doing business. 30 cents per mile, and what they say, minimum wage 120%, when it only equates to about $5.60 to $6 an hour, because you're only getting paid for the time that you have an active driver, right? There's all that misleading language. That's not business. I don't do business. I don't eat peanuts. I can't survive on peanuts, right? You need sufficient money, right? I think my one T-shirt says it very, very well, right? I should actually wear this afternoon, right? Because that yes on 22 doesn't mean money. If you need more money, you got to stand up for making more money. You got to stand up and fight towards true independent contractor status, right? We can achieve that. I like with 45 likes and 45 people in the house. That makes me very, very happy. So we'll have many sessions. We'll address it again this afternoon in our house Mondays, which will be late this afternoon. A lot of good topics stacked for that session. Join us later. IQ Boy just stepped in. Thanks for the question, Nick. You'll still have your flexibility. You'll still have your freedom, but we got to stand and fight for better rates and better pay. Soon as they have yes on 22, there's no negotiating anymore. Not even the state of California can start applying pressure. It's over. So if we can get a no on 22, we can keep on negotiating something far, far better. You deserve better. Thank you, everyone. Oh, Sherelle says, 3 of the 45 are me. Yeah, I got 3 likes from Sherelle. Love you, and love you for those 3. 3 of the 50 are from Sherelle. How cool is that? Right? All right, fogies. This was great. This was super cool. Thank you, Brad. And I have the others from Robin Hood. We're going to be talking a lot about Robin Hood in the next few days. The guys from Orange County, warriors, true warriors. They'll be telling you their story. Have a good one. Happy Monday. And I'll see you later in Our House Mondays, which is just all about you. I mean, every single comment you're going to be making, I'm going to be shouting out. You choose the topics. You choose the talking points. I read them out. Today, I had to sort of stay on topic because this was a live event. But Our House Mondays later, all about you. That's where gig workers meet. That's where gig workers share. Thank you, everyone. Until later.